Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Give me a few minutes. Let me turn this on. Give me a few minutes. Come on in. Come in, and I'll be starting in a minute or two. Just give me a few minutes and let me sort out all the technical stuff. But come on in. You are most welcome to another wonderful Wednesday. And give us a few minutes. We will be starting shortly. I hope you can hear me. Check my sound. Let me know if you can hear me loud and clear. Give me a few more minutes. I'll be starting shortly. I want to be respectful of your time. Give me a few minutes. Let me make sure that we are live on all platforms. And then I should be ready to start. Thank you to those of you who are already online. Thank you. I'll be starting shortly. Just give me a minute or two. Let me just make sure that all platforms we are live, and then I will be ready to start. Thank you for being here. Okay. Welcome to another wonderful Wednesday. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your patience. We will be starting soon. I was waiting also for Lee to wrap up his. He had a meeting just before this, so I was hoping he'll be done by now, but it looks like that meeting went over, so we will start without him, and he will join in if he's able to come on after a little while. But thank you for being here. Thank you to all of you for being committed and faithful to this platform and always coming in and joining us in, sending us your questions and just the conversations, the networking. We appreciate that. This is exactly why this platform is there. Thank you all for being here. We appreciate you. We appreciate your support, and continue showing up for yourselves, for your businesses. This is a free platform where we want to interact with as many business owners as possible. I don't know how many of you were there last week when we had one of our guests who is in the hat business. Anytime you get to have conversations with other business owners, there is always something to learn, something to appreciate from others. This is why this platform is there, so that we can grow together as business owners and make an impact in our society. I believe as business owners, we have a responsibility to make sure that we are impactful in our society or in our communities. Communities are made by us people, and we cannot leave it to a certain group of people. Sometimes, it's easy to say, well, there are NGOs, there are politicians and whatnot, but as human beings, we also live in our communities. So, as such, we should be able to take part and give whatever little that we can, whether it's through our businesses, whether it's through us as individuals. It is always awesome and great to be able to give back to the communities that we live in, especially in these days where sometimes it feels like life is just too much for many to handle, right? So it's important that we all do our part, whether it's little, whether it's big, everything when it adds up goes a long way. So, yeah, glad that you are all here and that we are able to partake and be a part of this. And we still continue to call on to other business owners to say, hey, this is a platform where you are most welcome. If you are willing to share about your journey as an entrepreneur, whether it's to share your experiences, your challenges, this is the safe platform for you to do that. We want everyone to have that ability and that space to be able to come in and have conversations. There's so much that we can learn from each other. There's so much that we can learn from others' experiences and shortcomings, so that if you have to redo things, you know what not to do. This is why we have this platform for you and for all the other business owners. So if you are a business owner and you are interested, make sure you reach out to us right now on top of the screen. On my top left, there's a VIP guest registration. I want you to go in there, scan that code in, and we will get in touch with you so that you can have an opportunity to come and join us on this platform. But I see that Lee has joined in. Hey, Lee, I
Hey,
hope you can hear
great
me.
job. I was in the back office while you were doing what it is that you were doing, so I know our guests are always going to be in good hands. And sorry for being late to our audience. I ran over just a little bit, and I'm with the headphones today because I didn't have a good chance to set up my normal setup. But welcome to I th-
Let's go.
I think what we said that we were going to do going forward is we were going to call today Wonderful Winning Wednesdays.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, back in the day, there used to be a Budweiser commercial where people would talk about Wednesdays being hump day. There was a Budweiser commercial, and the avatar would say hump day. So that's what comes to my mind as I begin to think about all of this. And one of the things that we usually try to get started around something that's going on inside of the business realm. But I
Mm-hmm.
think that there's a conversation that I don't know how small business owners are attacking that particular problem, but there's something definitely around artificial intelligence and what are small business owners doing for uh, around artificial intelligence, because I believe that it's going to be something that is almost like a paradigm shift. And
Yeah.
when I speak to paradigm shifts, I'm talking about, you know there was you looked at IT from a different perspective before there was the internet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Before there was the internet, everyone had to go into the office and do what it is that they needed to do. There was no working from home at that point in time. So we're only 20 years removed from working in the office, but there seems to be some dynamic of folks that just really don't want to go into the office, right? And I was listening to a CEO the other day on one of my nerd programs, and they were talking about why they need people to come into the office. And they're not asking or wanting you to come into the office so that they could see you, right? That's a very limiting belief, is that they want to see you. They want you to embed the culture of the organization. What And you can do that by being in the office and being around other people, like with that team camaraderie that is there, right? But at the same time,
Mm.
you're telling people to come into the office, but you're also deploying an AI assistant that could actually do that job. Eventually, the AI will be able to answer probably 90% of those questions if you were to use Pareto's principle, right? It's going to get to the point where it can answer at least 80% of the questions all on its own.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned embracing the culture of the business of the companies, and that's why they also want people to come in. And of course, it made me, think back to when I was working before that. That culture was very important, and it gave you a sense of belonging with a group of people that you were working with, and you understood, and the culture also kind of defined how we were working and how we were interacting. And as we are also talking about artificial intelligence, as we were talking, I said to myself, would artificial intelligence be able to embrace the culture? How is it going to? Is there even, can we even talk about artificial intelligence and business or company culture in the same line, right? But that's not what the conversation really is going to be for about today. I think that's just something that came into my mind, and I was just like, it's interesting that as human beings or as employees, we need to work together and embrace the culture, understand the culture of the business. However, when we are also putting in artificial intelligence, can we still embrace that culture?
Well, the thing about it is, so remember today, and I've done this research before, is there are different types of artificial intelligence. And the
Hmm,
last time
yeah.
I checked, there were about 20 or so different kinds of artificial intelligence, right? So there's 20 or so different artificial intelligence. The one that we're talking about right now is around large language models, right? And you would have to be able to say inside of a model that there is some type of emotion that's going to be conveyed there. And I think culture sits on emotions as a whole, right? So
Hmm.
culture sits on emotions as a whole, and what is that relationship that you have to the organization. And earlier today, I was doing some self training, and I watched the Simon Sinek video all over again. And it talks about start with why. And you might remember when I was on my Simon Sinek journey, and I read that book twice, right? And not
Mhm.
only did I read the Simon Sinek book twice, but I was a little bit lost when it came to figuring out how to find the why, right? I was a little bit lost in trying to figure out how to the why is, but one of the things that I like the most about that is the fact that the messaging, when you use a start with why type of analogy, and I'm going to put it into the chat, is that when you start with why, you are talking to a component of the brain that actually is based upon emotion,
Mm-hmm.
right? And
Yeah.
he talks about the outer curve that talks to the what, right? That one can understand language, so that's a part of your conscience. But then he talked about the limbic system, right? And that's where the small brain is, the amygdala is, and that can't understand language, right? So you have to be able to talk about, um, you have to be able to talk in terms of why. You got to get to that passion. And one of the things that I believe that we need to have here is really a conversation that helps others to understand from a small business perspective. It gets lonely as a small business owner trying to create this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
It gets lonely trying to create this thing. Let me see if I could. It gets lonely trying to create this thing, right? And who
Yeah.
is it that you could actually turn left or turn right to when you're going through the storm, right? Because I like to say small business owners are, by their very nature, people who are willing to take a chance, right? You
Mm.
have to be willing to take a chance and you have to believe in what it is that you're looking to create. Otherwise, why go through all of the pain of having to work? I like to call it half days. You know, a half a day is typically 12 hours, right? In a 24-hour scheme of things, I have to have a passion for why I'm doing what I'm doing if I'm going to work a 12-hour day, and I'm going to do that probably 7 days a week, if not 6 days a week, right? 6 days, if not 7 days a week, in order to get through this thing that I believe in. You see
Mm.
what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
So
I. Mm-hmm.
assignment talks to starting with why, and it's there are two approaches that you could have: starting with what or starting with why. But I love when he talks about Apple is a computer company similar to HP and Dell. The difference between Dell and HP is they start with the what, right? And he start with the why. Apple starts with
Mm.
the why. And it's a totally different conversation when they start with the why. So I put it into the chat, and I'll share it again just so that anyone who has the link, I did the share, so it might be a little bit long, but it will definitely get you to where you need to go to so that you can get back to finding your why. Because one of the things that I mentioned as a coach is we have to always be connected to that why. Otherwise, it's going to be very difficult to wake up in the morning and have to start all over again if you get disconnected from your why. Hope
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense.
Makes sense. It's this morning as I was thinking about what to share on today, I was thinking of commitment and what commitment means. And for me, your why and your commitment will go hand in hand
Hmm.
because it's very difficult to be committed if you don't know why, right? If you don't have your why are you going to be committed to working half days, right?
Mm,
Um, so it's interesting that you were talking about your why, and I was thinking of talking about commitment, and there is that alignment.
mm,
And of course, I was thinking about it because the reason why I was thinking about that was because yesterday in one of the masterminds that I attend, we were having conversations about the different terms that are used to describe one being in a position to use their whole life insurance for so many other things besides just the death benefit.
Hmm.
Some people talk about velocity banking, some talk about infinite banking, some talk about cash value life insurance.
Hmm.
And at the end of it all, we all agreed that no matter what you call it or what you term it or how you structure it, without commitment, it's just zero. It's as good as nothing, right? And
Hmm.
part of it is because when you don't have that why and you don't understand what has driven you or what propelled you to go ahead and set this up and have this, when you don't have your why for that, it's very easy that when as years go by, because this is not something that you're going to just do for a year or two, but as years go by, year 10, year 15, are you going to remain committed? And your commitment without your why is if without your why is likely to fall to you not being committed and letting it go because there was never a strong why.
Yeah. And you could always have a plan, right? And in the midst of living your life, that plan will be disrupted by life in and of itself,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
So I like to narrow it down to 5-year commitments, right?
Hmm.
5-year commitments, because in 10 years so much can happen, and I believe people have a very difficult time of envisioning 10 years away. 5 years could also be very difficult to envision, but that's more palatable. You can
Mm.
put together a roadmap for 5 years, whereas 10 years could be actually very difficult. And if we were to take our traction EOS concept and the VTO, the Vision Traction Organizer, they have a 1 year plan, a 3 year picture, and a 10-year target. I like to bring that 10-year target into 5 years, and then you could put a roadmap to that, right? But the book that I just finished reading, talking about declutter your mind, right? Because in this age that we're living in, every 15 minutes or every hour, let's give some latitude and just say every hour you got to pick up your cell phone, even though it may not have rang, right? Just
Mhm,
because
mhm.
you feel as though, oh, I might have missed a message, or I
Yes.
might have done something other than this. And we have lost the ability to be present, right?
Yeah.
Because in presence is whether or not if you are spending time thinking about, not being present is whether or not if you have spent time thinking about something that has already occurred. So you're thinking in the past, right? Or
Mhm.
you are worried about something that's meant to happen in the future, but it hasn't happened yet. So why are you causing yourself stress and anxiety over something that potentially could happen?
Yeah.
Right? And on the what is it? What is that gospel show that you listen to? Willie Moore,
Yeah.
right? And you know how Willie Moore, he has that acronym that actually speaks to uh being present, and that's why they call it a gift, right?
Hmm. I
Well,
think I think he speaks about how the past is what the past
history, the
is
past is
history.
history.
Yeah.
The future is a mystery, right? That's why you have to be. That's why the present is a gift. That's why they call it a present. Hold on, let me
Mhm.
Google it. Is
Yeah,
is
but I think like you're saying, it just speaks about
I got it.
yesterday has already happened, and
Yeah.
don't dwell on yesterday. You have today. You don't know if you're going to have tomorrow. So focus on today and do what
Hmm.
you need to do today to accomplish what is set out for you for today.
100%. And
Right.
I'm putting it into the chat again just so that we could share with others, because we don't know what an individual who is looking at this podcast today is going through. But Willie Moore says, yesterday is history, tomorrow is a mystery, but today is a gift. That's why it's called the present,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then when you start thinking about being present, and are you being present as a small business owner? Have you been able to compartmentalize your business, right? So that you are spending time with loved ones, whether that's going to be family, that's going to be a spouse, that's going to be,
Yeah.
all of those types of things. And, all of that is something that I believe the individual business owner is a whole, right? You can't separate half of yourself and say, "Oh, I'm a CEO," right? And then
Mm-hmm.
and there's another half of me that's a father, right? That one individual is trying to balance all of those things together. It's a pretty deep conversation, and I don't think that it's going to be one that we fully untackle over here. But we do have a coaching program, and it's not something that we advertise to the masses. It's going to be something that we will eventually start advertising to it as we start to set it up more. Because I'll tell you, Eunice, we've been through a couple of wars, right? We've been through a couple of wars,
Yep.
and if we can share what it is that we've been through with those wars with others, and we could help them to navigate those, success to me in that capacity means that if it took us 5 years to do something, and we can educate somebody else to do it in 4, 3, or 2, I would define that as success,
Definitely.
right?
Definitely.
They don't have to go through the same, and we're pretty educated, right? With education, you would believe that we also have a certain level of smarts that come along with that education, right? And it still took us time to figure certain things out. And I would say, as because we're almost to the bottom of the hour, is that that's okay,
Mm-hmm.
right? I want to develop a T-shirt that says "Run your race, but at your pace," right? Because I feel as though too often, too many are in competition with others. Like, this one is here, and why am I here? Or this one is there, and why am I there? Right? I believe that the race that needs to be run is the one that you run against yourself. That's
Mm-hmm.
your only competition, and it's going to be up in here.
Yep.
So when you wake up in the morning, you were talking about commitment. Commitment starts in here, in the mind, right? How can you be committed to this thing? And you have to start with your why.
Yeah.
So I know we're not tree huggers. We're not walking around barefoot and just saying that our feet need to touch the earth type of people, but we do believe that there is a spiritual component to all of these things that are going on in the world, and whether that is for you, it's okay. Whether that's not for you, guess what? It's also
It's okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Just come to the community and share. And although we didn't really talk about something about specifically business or infinite banking today or business credit, etc., I think that I feel very good about being able to drop off the call, because I believe that this message that we're communicating today will be able to touch someone in a very special place.
Yeah. And I think, like you said, we may not have touched on whether is building business credit or, infinite banking or any of the other businesses that we do. But I think it's very important, equally important, that we build our community. And building our community may be something like this, where we share with others to say, listen, for you to be committed to the cause and say, hey, I'm a business owner and my business is to run a cleaning company. There
Mhm.
has to be a why are you doing this business, because that why is going to hold you up when things are rough. We've been through many rough years, and because we understood and we had actually documented our why, we always had something to look back to and say, hey, yesterday was is history. Today we're going to get up and we're going to continue moving and pushing and doing that which we know we need to do, because our why is stronger and bigger than whatever may have happened yesterday.
Mm.
And I think as business owners, this is part of this platform where we're saying we want to have conversations with other business owners for them to realize you are not alone. Whatever you are going through, others may also have gone through that. Let us form a community where we have a safe space where, as business owners, we can help each other out. We can grow with others. We can have a community where, if I'm having issues with, say, cash flow, I can pick up the phone and say, Lee, this is where I am. Do you have any ideas, or how did you manage something like this? We need to have a community where we're able to do that. And this is what this platform is really all about.
Wow.
Right?
Pretty good stuff. Hey, everyone, we gotta get on our bicycle and travel on to the next opportunity. But like always, we're gonna be here. We're thinking about changing it up just a little bit to where we have it at in the afternoon versus here at 1 p.m. If you can provide us with some suggestions just so that we could have more people engage while we are live, that's going to be what
Yeah.
we're looking for. So we're going to do some A/B testing just to see if that's going to be possible. But as we leave you, we want to say to you, have a wonderful winning Wednesday. Thank you for joining us over here at Business Finance and Infinite Banking. We will catch up with you soon. Take care.